Good morning, everybody. Would you all stand and let's sing together? Let's sing No Greater Love. No greater love have I found than this, the one who will lay down his life for his friends. I found your love. You called me friend. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I was a prisoner, held by my shame. Then just with the breath you turned over my grave. I'll always remember you changed everything. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wanna get lost inside of your love. I wanna let praise flow out of these lungs. Oh, I won't leave your presence. This is right where I belong. Yeah, I wanna get lost in your love. Let's sing I Walk in Freedom. I walk in freedom, redemption and life, like beauty for ashes, from darkness to light. Oh, death, where's your sting? I am fully alive. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I wanna get lost inside of your love. I wanna let praise flow out of these lungs. I won't leave your presence. This is right where I belong. Yeah, I wanna get lost in your love. My heart is overflowing. My heart is overflowing. My praise will not stop growing. My soul will sing forever. All of you, all honor and all glory. All honor and all glory to you, the one who's worthy. My soul will sing forever. I love you. Sing that again. My heart is overflowing. My praise will not stop growing. My soul will sing forever. I love you. All honor and all glory to you, the one who's worthy. My soul will sing forever. I love you. I wanna get lost inside of your love. I wanna let praise flow out of these lungs. Oh, I won't leave your presence. This is right where I belong. Yeah, I wanna get lost inside of your love. I wanna let praise flow out of these lungs. Oh, I won't leave your presence. This is right where I belong. Yeah, I wanna get lost in your love. I wanna get lost in your love. Well, hey, good morning, everybody. Welcome to church. We are so glad that you chose to spend part of your weekend here with us. If you're new here, my name's Sierra, and what you can expect for the rest of your time here this morning is we're going to sing one more song. You'll hear an awesome message, and then we're going to wrap things up today by celebrating baptisms with a few more songs at the end. So would you guys continue to stand if you're able and participate as much as you feel comfortable as we sing this together? Love with no restrictions, grace so freely given, and I am standing on a promise that Let's sing your love. Your love is unconditional. Your hope is unconditional. Your joy is unconditional. Always, always. Your love is unconditional. Your hope is unconditional. Your joy is unconditional. Always, always. Joy is unconditional, always, always. Your love is unconditional. Your hope is unconditional. Your joy is unconditional, always, always, always. Your love is unconditional. Your hope is unconditional. Your joy is unconditional. You are my joy, the end of all strife, a new way of living. You are my joy. You are my joy. I don't have to earn it, could never deserve it. You are my joy. You are my joy is unconditional, always, always. Your love is unconditional. Your hope is unconditional. Your joy is unconditional, always, always, always. Your love is unconditional. Your hope is unconditional. Your joy is unconditional. It's a new way of living. Your love is unconditional, always, always. Lord, Lord Jesus, we praise you this morning. We honor you. We thank you for the gift of unconditional love, God. Would you go before us as we continue this time in service? Would you be glorified, Jesus? It's in your name we pray. Amen. Amen. Thanks so much for singing with us. If you're a middle school student, we have an awesome experience for you. If you want to head to those doors in the back, everybody else can go ahead and take a seat.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to church. My name is Rachel, and I have the privilege of serving on the team here this morning. A special welcome to those of you who are either in the room or watching online. If this is your first experience here, if you're a guest today, we just want to say a special welcome. We're thrilled to have you here with us. When you came through the door, you were given this program. Go ahead and take that out with me right now. Check out the awesome things inside. There's some message notes for today's talk, and I also want to point out our QR code that takes you to a virtual connection card. Go ahead and take out your phone, open up the camera app, and scan that QR code and start filling out that card. We ask everyone every single week to fill out this card, whether you're a regular around here or a guest, because two really great things happen when you fill out this card. The first is that for every card filled out every single weekend, we get to make a donation in your honor to an organization called Living Water. Living Water helps provide clean, sustainable drinking water to developing nations all across the globe. So just for filling out this card today, you are making a difference. The second thing is that it gets you connected here. You have an opportunity to request more info about things happening at Eastpoint, as well as leave prayer requests so that our team can be praying for you throughout the week. While you fill out that card, I want to bring some things to your attention, things that are coming up around here. The first is our Dream Team Night, happening at the end of this month on the 28th at 5:30. Dream Team is anyone who serves on a team here, who participates in groups, or just calls this place home. So you are invited to join us that night. There will be childcare and food, and we hope that you will join us. And if you are curious about Dream Team and what Dream Team is and how to join, we actually have next Sunday our starting point class. This is where you can come and hear about the nuts and bolts of what makes Eastpoint Eastpoint, what the Dream Team is, and you have an opportunity to decide if Eastpoint is your church and if Dream Team is something that you want to join. So if you would like to attend our starting point class, go ahead and register for that. You can do that on the Church Center app or on our website, eastpointchurch.com, and we would love to see you there. Keep filling out that card. We're going to put up a video on the screen for you to take a look at as Tony makes his way to the stage. Let's go for it.
I found my way. I was in the dark against it all, but made it through the day, 'cause I found my way. I found my way. In bad times, I know I'll be okay, 'cause I found my way.
Well, good morning. I'm going to do something up here. Okay, we're going to get a little creative today. Some of you don't need this explanation. For some of you probably want to take notes here and go home and this will change your life. We're going to make some chocolate chip cookies today. Can we do that? So I was thinking about the basic ingredients that go into a chocolate chip cookie. And if you don't know, they're on the back of the chocolate chips. But some of you probably have a special recipe that is far better and far more advanced. And you're you have the corner on chocolate chip cookies. You could sell more than any Girl Scout. You make the best chocolate. Anyone or your grandma or your mom makes the best chocolate chip cookies. Okay, these are personally one of my favorite treats, if you're ever wondering. But basically, when you look at chocolate chip cookies, there's some basic ingredients that go into this. Okay, I kind of grouped them in 5 different categories, and we're going to just attempt to make them here just real quick today. And then we're actually going to cook them on stage. You're going to smell them cooking in just a little bit because I've prepped some that are in the oven. So the first thing you have in the first group of ingredients, you have what we'd call wet ingredients, okay? The wet stuff. So you put a couple eggs in. There's one. This is like, I've got little kids, and they love to crack the eggs, and I never trust them to do it, because I've seen them do it. And but you got eggs, and you got a little bit on your fingers, so you got to, all right, keep on going. This is, I think, an essential ingredient, and this is from Mexico. I picked it up while I was there because it's the best vanilla, like vanilla you buy on the shelf. Here, it's just not as good. You need a teaspoon. Don't mix this up. Okay, don't do tablespoon, do the teaspoon. You don't do like TSP capital or like lowercase TSP, not like the big TBST. It makes a difference. And when you're learning how to bake or cook for the first, these are things that we often mess up. And so we need some vanilla. That's going to go in there. It's clear vanilla, not the dark stuff. And then you need some butter, right? This is all the wet stuff that goes in, okay? You need some sticks of butter that are softened. Maybe you brown your butter because you're an overachiever. That's awesome. I don't have time to unwrap it. And so then once you get past the wet stuff, you give that a good mix and you get that all in there. And then you go on to the sweet stuff. And so you've got your white sugar that you got to put in there. And I think you need about 3/4 of a cup of the white granulated sugar. So we're going to put some sugar in. That's good. We're going to make it extra sweet. All right. And then you need the brown sugar. Okay. I love brown sugar. You can put it on pretty much anything. Put it on bacon. Okay. Brown sugar. This is like a cube. So we're just going to put some in. That's a good amount of brown sugar. Okay. And then from there, you need your flour. Now, there's lots of different types of flours you could use. Okay. I'm just using an basic organic, okay, because I'm healthy. Watching my father figure, okay? So you've got to put some flour in. Let's take a step back for a second. You mix this up, obviously. But once you get past the sweet stuff, then you got to get into the dry stuff. And this is dry stuff because have you ever just put flour in your mouth? Like it's just dry, okay? But you got to put the flour in. Now, if you're like wise, you're going to have a separate bowl for your flour and then the next ingredients, which are the important stuff that you would sift together and mix all in together, but we don't, again, got time for all that. This is not your grandma's chocolate chip cookies, okay? There's some flour. That's the dry stuff. And then you have the important stuff. And the important stuff, again, these are like small amounts that you have to put in, and you have to get this right, because if you mix up the tablespoon, teaspoon thing, it changes everything. When I was a kid, I was making sugar cookies. I loved to bake as a kid. And I was making sugar cookies, and I read 1/4 teaspoon or tablespoon, I'm not sure, but it doesn't really matter because I didn't use a spoon of any kind, I used a cup. And I did 1/4 cup of baking soda and 1/4 cup of salt. And you better believe that changes the dough a little bit, right? Okay, so here's a tablespoon. I think we're supposed to do a teaspoon. That's what I'm saying. Don't mess this up because it will change things. Let's go back to the teaspoon of salt. It's weird that you'd put salt in a sweet treat, but you do. And you don't want to mess that up. You want to be exact, okay? It's precise. It's a precision game, okay? But after you get past the important stuff, again, because if you don't put this in, the cookies don't raise correctly or something. I don't know. Your grandma might know. And then you get the best stuff. This is the best stuff. This is what makes chocolate chip cookies, right? This is what you want in your cookie. And if you ask my kids, you can't put too much of these in there, right? You want what's right. So you're adding your chocolate chips. Anyone want some? Tough. Okay, so you put this all in there, right? You stir it all up, you make the dough, and then eventually you put it on the plate, and you have what I have inside of here, which is a few cookies that are cooking. And they're going to be done in about 6-7 minutes. It's still preheating. It might take a little longer. We're going to see where it goes. But I'm going to offer it to somebody and see if you'll eat one of these cookies. I promise the batter's a little better. But here's the thing, is we're starting a series this week, and for the next 5 weeks, we're doing a series called Let Him Cook. Let Him Cook. Have you ever heard that phrase before? Okay. Probably not a phrase you thought you were going to hear on Sunday at church in a message, but here's what the phrase essentially means. The first time I heard this phrase, let him cook, was when Russell Wilson was still the quarterback for the Seahawks. You remember Russ? Okay? All right. Any quarterback for the Seahawks is better than a 49ers quarterback, just saying. Okay, so here's the thing, though, is I heard this phrase, let him cook, when we were talking about Russell Wilson, because Russell Wilson he truly was, for the Seahawks at least, an exceptional quarterback, but there was a point where he just didn't have enough time in the pocket. He didn't have enough time behind his offensive line. He didn't have enough maybe freedom to do what Russell Wilson does, to do what only he could do. To let him cook meant that we need to give him the time to do what he can do. So the offensive line needed to protect him and allow him to scramble or allow him to even run the ball or to make the passes that he could make. We needed time to let him cook. And the idea for this series that we're going to do over the next 5 weeks is what if you and what if me, what if we could, and not to be cheesy, but what if we could be people that just let Jesus do what only he can do in our lives? What if we could let him cook? What if we could let Jesus do what only Jesus can do in our church and build a church, be part of a church that is a Jesus-centered church, it's a church that only Jesus could build? What if we let him cook? And so that's where we're going today. And what we're doing is just like the ingredients it takes to make chocolate chip cookies, we're looking at what are the core core ingredients to make a great church, to make a Jesus-centered church, to make a church that Jesus would want to build, that he is building. What are the ingredients that it would take? And there's lots of different ways to do it, and you're not going to see these on the screen today, but if you want, you've got notes, you can write them down. Here's the 5 ingredients that we find in Scripture, that we find in the teachings and life of Jesus, that we think are essential. 5 essential ingredients to a great church. One is gathering together. That's what we're doing today. We're gathering together. Okay, there's something important about the gathering together. There's another one of connecting deeply. That we would intentionally build great relationships with people around us, that we would serve others, that we would live generously, and that we would gain influence, that we'd build influence in our life and the lives around us as a church. These are 5 key components to a Jesus-centered church. And so today, as we talk about the first one of the gathering, we're going to not so much focus on what should our gathering be like, because the truth is, and you don't have to drive very far to find another church and another church. And, people sometimes joke about Sullivan as Church Row, right? You don't have to go very far to find just another church. And the truth is that from one church to the next, there's lots of different ways that people gather together. There's lots of different ways that this looks and feels and sounds like. People sing certain songs or don't do certain songs. People, do messages a certain way. People do first impressions and how we greet people. And sometimes coffee's free, and sometimes it tastes like it's free. Sometimes coffee's free, and we hope it doesn't, Sometimes you have to buy a coffee. There's just lots of different ways to gather together. And I'm not up here at all trying to make a case for one is more right or more wrong than the other. They're just different. And chances are, maybe today is your first day at Eastpoint. And you're watching online, even just kind of test driving the service. And you're trying to decide for yourself, do I like this gathering? Do I like the way that they gather? Does it feel friendly? Does it feel welcoming? Does it feel like it's pointing me in the direction that I'm hoping to go? If I'm spiritually seeking, do I gain some understanding of this whole God, Jesus thing? You're trying to understand what this gathering is like. And it's not about one's more right or more wrong. There's just lots of different ways to do it. And I'm so grateful for all the churches in our community, because the truth is every person woke up today and said, I'm going to go to church. There's not nearly enough churches for everyone to find a seat. Okay, there's beauty in the body of the Christ that is diverse across our community. But there's a difference between being diverse than being divisional, right? And I don't think Jesus wants any one church to draw lines between the other and try to create what's right and what's wrong and tell you how you're supposed to do it. Now, there's lots of different things and different conclusions people come to when we all gather information kind of from the same book, right, the Bible. And there's different ways that we interpret the Bible. And I'm not trying to make a case that one way is better than another way. That's okay. What we want to do here is we want to look at what's it look like to be a Jesus-centered church where we learn from and then live out what we see in the life of Jesus. And not just his life, but his death and his resurrection. And how does that impact our lives today? And so as we gather, we're not going to so much look at, okay, here's the model of how we gather. We're not evaluating here we gather. You're experiencing this for yourself. Some of you're here week after week after week because you love the way that we gather. You love the friends that you gather with. You love the worship. You love you love these things. Your kids want to come back week after week after week because you love the way that we gather. So we're not going to talk about so much of how we gather. What we want to do really is talk about this idea of who's invited. Who's invited? Because that's important to know. If you've ever thrown a party but you forgot to send out an invite list, guess who shows up? Just you, right? It's important to understand who's invited and to understand that there are people invited, and that like this idea of who's invited, because the truth is while we don't want to ever be a place where nobody shows up, we also don't want to be a place where it's just like this exclusive club that only those who know the information show up, right? So what's it look like to have our doors wide open, and who's actually invited to come through our doors when we gather together? And for the next few minutes, my hope is not that you'll just listen to a talk, but that you'll like really kind of chew on it a little bit and try to evaluate for yourself, how does this apply to my life? How does this affect my life? And for some of you, this will affect your life in such a profound way that you're going to take a step to get baptized in water today. And already up here, we have the tank that's all set and the water's warm and it's ready to go. And we don't do this all the time, but we love when we get the chance to do baptisms in water. And there's already, I think, about 10 people that are signed up ahead of time that are here ready to get baptized, but some of you are here. And you've been gathering for a little bit. And you've made a decision of faith, and you put your trust and faith in Jesus, or you're going to do that today, and you've never taken the step to get baptized in water. Or maybe you took that step as a kid, but you didn't really mean it, or didn't really know it, and your parents just kind of pushed it. Like, I'm not judging one way or the other. Did you hear the beep? They're so close. But you're going to take the step today to get baptized in water, because of what God has done in your life. Baptism in water is an outward symbol of an inward transformation. When you say yes to follow Jesus and allow him to kind of make you new and point you on a new path, baptism in water, it's not that there's something special or holy. I asked my kids, like, what's the purpose of the water? And my youngest said, well, it's holy water, Dad. I'm like, trust me, there's nothing holy about this water. It's warm, though, okay? But if it's too warm, people might pee in it, okay? So we can't let it be too warm, because... But there's nothing special about it. It's just, we don't call it a holy hot tub. We kind of joke about that, right? But it's just simply saying, it's an outward symbol to tell the community around you, your friends, your family, said, hey, I've made a decision to put my trust, my faith in Jesus, and I don't want to turn back from that decision. And some of you, this will affect you so much today that you're like, that's the step that I need to take. Now, I don't know where I got this. I started going to church in high school, like 8th, 9th grade, really 9th grade though, and it didn't take long for me to be going to church where I started to kind of pick up on this whole idea of, it felt like Christianity, religion, church, was this kind of like this big game of Jesus says. You remember the game Simon Says? Like Simon says do this and you do this. If Simon doesn't say and you do it, then you're out. It felt like, and again, I don't know where I picked it up, but somewhere along the way, it felt like we were all just kind of playing this game of Jesus says. So Jesus says jump, and you jump. Jesus says pray, you pray. Jesus says go to church, you go to church. Jesus says don't look over there at that pretty girl. You're like, oh, Jesus, have you seen her though? You know, like, and then eventually you do something that Jesus didn't say to do, and guess what? You're out. And to be honest, there was a point in my life where I kind of liked being out. Like, because it seemed a little easier, it seemed a little more fun just to be out and not get so caught up, like, I have to do what Jesus says again, I have to do this again. Like, and it was just kind of easier sometimes to just be out. But then I would go to, like, summer camp, and I would just be so in love with God and recognize that he's so in love with me, and I would commit my life to him again. And I'm like, all right, I'm back in the game. I want Jesus, you say pray. I want to pray. I want to build a prayer life. Jesus says you read your Bible. I want to read my Bible. I start underlining verses, start memorizing verses. And the thing is, the better I got at playing the game of Jesus says, I also realized the people that weren't playing the game. And so the better I got at just doing what Jesus says, I realized the people around me were like, they're not playing the game. Whoa, you're not playing the game. Hello? Like, do you not know what Jesus says? You're not doing this. I'm not going to be the only one that can't have any fun. If I can't have fun, you can't have fun either. You need to do what Jesus says, right? And the better I got at playing the game, it seemed like the more judgmental I got as well. Right? It's just something that kind of just, and I don't know where it happened, and that was it wasn't anybody's fault, but it just happened over time. Maybe this is the reason that has kept you out of church for a long time. Maybe this is the reason why you watch online right now, because you test drive us before you'd ever want to show up here, because you're not sure what to expect. Maybe this is the reason that you hold God or church or religion at arm's distance, because you grew up in a religious system, a religious family that is just says do, and don't. And you're just like, I just wasn't any good at the game. And it was just easier just to stay out. And if hell's real and I go there, well, at least I'll know people, I guess. And I just wasn't good at it. Like, but we get caught up in this. But here's the great news. I wish there was a way for each one of us just to kind of like, just erase our memory banks for a second. just erase kind of this whole idea of what we have learned, what we already know about church, what we already know about God. If we could just erase, ooh, those look good. Do you smell them? That was my hope, that you would just crave them, your mouth would be watering the whole time, okay? We'll get to those. But what if we could just go, boop, and our brain just kind of flatline for a second on all things we think we know religiously, all things we know, things we think we know about God or the Bible. If we could just have a blank slate, and if then we crack open the pages of Scripture and we read the Gospels of Matthew and Mark and Luke and John, these eyewitness accounts that tell the story of the person of Jesus. What would again, we grew up in a religious system, or maybe you grew up in an anti-religious system, and so you filter everything through this lens of the way you grew up. But what if we could just blank slate it all and just see this all new for the first time? And one of the things that each one of us would realize right away when we read through these Gospels is we recognize this. If you had this blank slate, as you'd see this, and it's in your notes here, that the message of the gospel is a relational message. It's a relational message. It's not so much do, and don't. It's a relational message. It's like relationship on steroids, okay? It is so relational at its core. Jesus comes in and he says, hey, I want to help you understand what God is like. And he gives us a few examples to understand what God is like. He says it in the relational terms that they understood and that we can still understand today. He says it like this. It's kind of like a father-child relationship. Jesus says, I've come to reveal to you the Father so we can understand that God is like a father. And he's not like your earthly father. He's the perfection of Father. Isn't that incredibly relational? The connection that we can have with God there. Another way he says it's like a vine and a branch. And a vine doesn't say to the branch, do this and do that and don't do this and don't do that. The vine just simply says, hey, remain in me. And as you remain in me, things start to change. Things start to happen. Your life continues to, you start to transform. You start to grow, right? It's super relational, this whole remaining in thing. And then he goes on a third way, and he says it's like this. He says like a shepherd and sheep. Now, for us, this is kind of like a bad illustration, right? Because we don't really speak in these terms. We don't talk, like maybe if you grew up in like Valley Ford or something like that and you have sheep. I don't know. But in this culture, in this time, they understood this. And they knew that shepherds took care of the sheep and they cared for the sheep. And the sheep knew their shepherd's voice. And Jesus is like, all I have to do is speak. There's lots of sheep, but my sheep, when I speak, they hear my voice, they know my voice, and they start to walk in my direction. It's super relational. It's super relational. And this whole Jesus says thing of do, and don't, that's just not a great approach. And I'm sure that some of you, maybe you grew up like that, or you had that and you didn't really know what to do with it, and that's why you walked away, or that's why maybe you even keep showing up because you're like, I have this guilt of do. I want to see you be set free from that. What Jesus invites us into, it's a relationship that he invites us into. And if Christianity, the way you've experienced, if it's anything less than that, or if it's anything more than that, then you might have missed something along the way. And you could say, yeah, but Tony, how do I build a relationship with this invisible God? And I'm glad you're here today. And I'm glad you're going to be here for this series. Over the next 5 weeks, we're going to talk about, as we look at the core ingredients to a Jesus-centered church, what it looks like to build and grow that relationship that we have with God. And throughout the Gospels, there's a word that Jesus came back to over and over and over again. It's the word that we're going to camp out on today when we understand who's invited, and it's the word follow. It's the word follow. Now, before we get into the story that we're going to read, I want to invite, somebody want to try a cookie? Okay, let's just try one real quick. I got a spatula up here. I need someone. All right, come on up here. Do you trust?
Do I trust you?
Yeah, I want. That one doesn't look like it has any chocolate chips in it. Not a well-balanced cookie. It might be hot. Get it?
That's good.
That's good. Anyone else want one? Tough. You have to wait till later. Okay. Lots of different ways to make cookies, right? Lots of different ways to do it. what we want to learn from is what are the ingredients that Jesus would put into, and what's it mean for Jesus to invite, and what's it mean for us to gather, and who's invited to that gathering. And so we're going to look at this today and this idea of follow. In fact, I want to take us to the very first account that we see in the Gospels of this. And if you grew up in church, maybe this story is going to be familiar to you. You've heard this before, but if you didn't grow up in church, I think you're going to love this story. If you're kind of anti-religion, I think you're going to love this story. In fact, I'd love for all of you to love it so much that you just go home and read it for yourself, okay? But it's found in the book of Matthew. And Matthew is a collection of writings that are all about the eyewitness account of Jesus and the life of Jesus. And it's called Matthew because Matthew is the one who wrote it. And now the story that we're going to look at today is in Matthew chapter 9, and it's actually a story about Matthew. So Matthew is writing a story about himself and the simplicity of this invitation to follow. And here's what he writes in Matthew chapter 9. It says this, it'll be on the screens here. As Jesus went from there, he saw a man named Matthew sitting at a tax collector's booth. Do you know why he was sitting there? Because he was a tax collector. Pretty simple, right? But a tax collector in this culture, in this society, I mean, this is not someone you want to hang out with. These are people that you don't make eye contact with. You turn and you look the other way. You walk the other way. You don't like these people. If I could try to help you understand maybe the emotion that just walking next to the tax collector and hearing their voice and hearing them ask for taxes and collecting taxes from you, the way it would make you feel, I mean, the emotion that it would elicit, this is like how you might feel about that 22-year-old young dude who hangs out behind the gas station to sell drugs to middle schoolers when they come get Slurpees. Okay? It's like a scumbag. This is not a person you want to hang out with at all. Yet Jesus walks up today. He saw a man named Matthew sitting at a tax collector's booth because he was a tax collector. The idea of a tax collector in the Jewish culture, again, because they were Jewish people collecting taxes from their own people. They're collecting Roman taxes from their own people to pay Rome. And so they were disgusting. They were outcasts. They were marginalized. I mean, they couldn't go into the temple. They couldn't practice the normal Jewish things in society. They kind of had to hang out with other tax collectors and people that were like them, that were also outcasts as well. Because the way it worked in this culture is that Rome would auction off territories to gather taxes in all their different provinces that they'd kind of conquered and taken over. And so generally, pretty wealthy people would bid on these different territories so they could collect taxes, because what would happen is they could collect as much tax as they wanted as long as Rome got their fair share. And so then these people who bid on these things and won these territories, then they would hire local people from that country that were citizens of them, look, sound, talk just like the others, and they'd hire them to collect their taxes. But they would hire them and they would offer them so much money because it was such a lucrative business that it was really hard for anyone to say no. If you were in a time of need or desperation, if you just wanted to get ahead, you would have jumped on this because you're like, hey, I know it sucks, but at least I can profit off of this. And there were all sorts of kind of taxes in this time. There was a poll tax, there was bridge tax, there was income tax, food tax, harbor tax, crossroad tax, wine tax. Just about anything had a tax on it. And so these locals then would these locals would be collecting taxes from their fellow countrymen, from people that look and sound just like them, to pay Rome while at the same time lining their own pockets. So they were traitors to their own people to benefit themselves. They were hated. They weren't great people. And Jesus walks up and he's at this port or this dock at this big lake, and he sits there, and there's Matthew sitting there. And Jesus could have said a lot of things to him. Jesus could have walked up to Matthew and be like, I bet your mother's proud. You know, he could have said a lot of things to shame him, and he would have been justified in saying this because Matthew is a scumbag. Matthew is not someone that you like, someone that a mother would be proud of. And Jesus looks at Matthew, the tax collector, and Matthew would never forget this. And this is why he wrote it in there, because he'd never forget this. Because Jesus looks at him, and he says this. He says, follow me. Follow me. And I don't know because it's not in the scripture, but I got to imagine that there was an audible groan by those that were already following Jesus, that those were around him what? No way. He did not just say that to that guy. No. He couldn't have said that. We misheard. What did he say? Did he really? No, absolutely not. Because they're thinking this is not somebody that I would want to associate with. And if Jesus said, follow me, and they start to follow Jesus, and we're with Jesus, that means that they're with Jesus, and that means they're with me, and we are not with them. No way. Jesus, follow him? No, are you sure? Like, do you not know who he is? And in this moment, there's a lot of things that Jesus could have asked Matthew to do in order to like qualify him to follow him. He could have said, Matthew, if you want to follow me, I want you to stop doing. Matthew, if you want to follow me, I want you to start doing. In fact, Matthew, I've got a list for you. If you could just, here's some homework. If you could accomplish these 3-4 things to prove that you're a good person and that you're not going to be mean anymore and you're not going to do bad things anymore, if you could, and I'm going to come back in a couple weeks and I'm going to see how you're doing. And if you've accomplished this list of things, these do's and don'ts, then you can follow me. But he doesn't do any of that. He just says, follow me. And here's what happened next. Matthew got up. He got up and he followed him. He just accepted the simple invitation to follow him. And if you're one of Jesus' closest followers in this moment, you're hanging on and you're thinking, no way. No, it can't be that simple. Not just anybody could come and follow him in this moment. In fact, and we're going to find out in a minute here that there's this whole religious group of people that are kind of shadowing Jesus, and they're always shadowing. They're trying to figure out what he's up to, and they look at what's happening here and like, nope, this isn't right. It can't be this simple. You can't just say, follow me, and then a tax collector gets to be part of your group. A tax collector gets to be in, right? And because Jesus was a teacher, because he was a rabbi, this invitation to follow wasn't just an invitation to come hang out or join his fantasy football league. His invitation was way more profound than that. It's to become part of his group, become part of his posse, to become part of his circle, to begin to identify yourself with him as he begins to identify with you. This is the invitation that he had. And here's what Jesus didn't say. Even though people like you or me that maybe grew up playing the game of Jesus Says could have expected him to say, what Jesus didn't say, he says, Matthew, he doesn't say this, Matthew, if you're willing to do this, if you're willing to blank, if you're willing to start this or stop this, then you can follow me. He just says, Matthew, follow me. And here's what's significant about this and why this matters. That if we're going to gather together, then we've got to understand we got to understand who's invited. Because the same invitation that was extended to Matthew is an invitation that Jesus extends all throughout the gospel to all sorts of people, to all kinds of people, to rich people, to poor people, to young people, to old people, to spiritual people and non-spiritual people, religious people, non-religious people, to all sorts of people. The invitation is just follow me, follow me, follow me. And I think it'd be so cool if we could begin to ask ourselves this question. And maybe you're here and you don't identify as a Christian, or you never even planned to identify as a Christian. Maybe you grew up in church, and so you're on the other side of it, where if I say like John 11, you're thinking Lazarus, and you know the stories, right? You're on one end or the other on this whole faith thing. But imagine if we could begin to ask this question over the next few weeks, and begin to ask the question of considering what are the ingredients to a healthy church? What's it look like to build a Jesus-centered church? And we can tune out all those other things and maybe the filters that we view things through and the way that we grew up, all the other stuff, and just look at it in its most simple and basic terms, the most simple invitation to follow. And what if we could begin to ask this question of not how much do I know or how many verses have I memorized, not even am I a Christian, but what if we could ask the question, am I following? Am I following? At Eastpoint, we exist to be a safe place, meaning it doesn't matter where you're at, from I don't ever plan to know God or believe there is a God to I've been doing this forever and I've never looked back. Like wherever you're at, we want to be a safe place for you, your friends, your coworkers, your neighbors, your family members to come and find Jesus and to follow him. We want to be a safe place for people to find and follow Jesus. That's what we exist to do. And so ask this question, am I following? And if this seems too simple for you, it also seemed too simple for religious leaders in Jesus' day. In fact, the story continues, and Matthew gives us this really interesting detail, because in the very next scene, here's what it says. It says, while Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house. What? Okay, Jesus, you invited this person that we never thought you would invite to follow you, and now you're at his house? No way. Nope. This isn't real. And if you're a follower of Jesus, you're like, come on, Jesus, you already asked him to follow you. Now you're dragging us to his house. Do you know, like, we can't even go in his house. That's going to make us unclean. We're not going to be associated with people like him and with him. And Jesus is there at his house. And so the followers, they're like, I couldn't go there. I couldn't do this. I'm going to get tax collector cooties. We can't go inside of there. And yet Jesus is in the house, and his followers, his disciples are with them. And Jesus says to Matthew, basically, he's like, hey, I want to make this simple for you. I want you to follow me. And now let's go to your house and share a meal because I want to get to know you. I want us to relate. I want us to connect. And then look what happens. It says this. It says, while Jesus was having dinner at Matthew's house, many tax collectors and sinners came and ate with him and his disciples. Now, this is cool and weird. Tax collectors were such like a category of their own and such notorious like bad people that even sinners had to be separate from them, okay? Like there was tax collectors and there was sinners, and the sinners were like, at least I'm not a tax collector, you know? And Jesus is having dinner with these tax collectors and these sinners, and yet it was normal. Jesus was like, I'm willing to risk my own reputation just to go and relate with you, to go and to connect with you, to go and actually prove to you that you are invited to follow me, that when people gather together, the invitation is far and vast and wide to gather people together, that you're invited to follow me. And if you grew up in a religious system, this doesn't always look very pretty and doesn't always feel very good. But Jesus goes to Matthew's house. Matthew invites everybody he knows to come over and share this meal. He invites his friends, which are tax collectors and sinners, and they're gathering together to come and spend time with Jesus. And let me tell you why this is such a big deal. Okay, if you're following Jesus or you're just exploring, maybe you've been out of church for a while, you got kicked out for some silly reason of you didn't do, or you do, and you haven't been back, and you maybe thought you'd never be back, but you're here today. That this is for you, and this is so important. Is that Jesus was extraordinarily comfortable with people who were nothing like Jesus. Sometimes in the religious world and church world, we lose that. If you started following Jesus as an adult, you know what this is like. When you maybe were comfortable with your friends that are outside of church, outside of followers of Jesus, the tax collectors, the sinners, whatever. But then the longer we're in here, the less comfortable we can be sometimes in that setting. Jesus had this way of being so extraordinarily comfortable with people who were nothing like him, and they liked Jesus back. They were also comfortable with him. This is profound because this is something that I have to personally work on. Like, this is hard for me. And I'm not at all saying putting yourself in a compromising situation where if you struggle with something or like to go, just to go hang out at the bar or do this, like, I'm not at all going there. But I'm saying there's something about Jesus that helped. Like, he was just super comfortable with people that were nothing like him and that they liked him back. This is incredible to me because we sometimes have to work at this. And the longer we're in church, the easier it is to be uncomfortable with people that aren't churched, okay? Let me say it like this. If you're with us here today and you feel anything but love and acceptance, if you feel anything different than love and acceptance, if you feel anything less than that, if you feel any kind of angst of like those people, I want you to know that that's always our problem and it's never a Jesus problem. And we want to get better. And we want to do better. We want to grow. We want to have Jesus transform us to love people the way that he loves. Because when we look at the ingredient of who gathers and who is invited, we recognize that all people, that you, that me, our friends, our neighbors, that we're all invited, that the simple invitation to follow. But what happens sometimes is as religious people, we get caught up in this. In fact, the verse goes on and it says this. It says, when the Pharisees saw us, they asked the disciples, why does this teacher eat with tax collectors and sinners? I wonder if that would ever be asked of us as a church. Why does that church have those people gathering there? I hope so. I hope it gets asked. I hope that there's religious people out there that are maybe critiquing us. Because Jesus was critiqued in this way. And it says this, on hearing this, Jesus said, it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. It's not the healthy who need a doctor, but Jesus says, this is why I've invited them. This is why this message is important, because it's not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. But go and learn what this means. I desire mercy, not sacrifice, for I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners. And what comes next here is that those that were shadowing Jesus, the religious people, the Pharisees, they were overly religious people, and they're not happy with Jesus' actions, Jesus' choice of who he's invited and who he's hanging out with. And now, like Matthew, is that my guess, there's many of us here who have felt like this before, that we didn't feel qualified to follow, or we didn't feel like we were good enough. We felt like we were judged, or that those religious people looked down their noses at us because we knew we were on the out. We knew we needed some forgiveness. We knew we had betrayed. We knew we had lied. We knew we had stolen. We knew we had done some things, right? And sometimes what happens in religious worlds, as we gather together, we create these places that what we do unintentionally maybe is we communicate, hey, you need to change in order to fit in here. If you want to fit in, you got to change first. It's like anyone like to golf? I like to golf. It's so strange to me, though, that I have to wear a collared shirt when I go to golf. It's like, hey, I just want to go play a sport. Why do I need to get dressed up first? But sometimes this is maybe unintentionally. Let's assume the best. This is what we communicate. Hey, you need to change. In fact, the message of the Pharisees was this. The Pharisees' message is this, is change and you can join us. The religious message is often this, change. If you just change, if you would just do, and don't, because Jesus says do this. If you could just change, then you're going to fit in here. Then you can join us. But Jesus' message was so much better and so much, because again, some of you know exactly what this feels like, and it doesn't feel good. And yet Jesus comes along and he turns this upside down. He flips it on his head, and Jesus' message is completely different, because Jesus' message is this. Jesus' message, join us, and you will change. Not because you have to change, but because if you want to actually follow Jesus, maybe for the first time you're going to experience life. For the first time you're going to start to experience purpose and passion and a direction in your life and some guidance. If you'll allow Jesus to do what only Jesus can do in your life, then over time he starts to transform your life. If you let him cook, if you let him do what only he can do, that he begins to change our lives. Things that you used to struggle with, maybe now you have some accountability and some people that are helping you navigate the struggles of life. Things that you used to walk through where you felt just alone and depressed, and now you have a reason for living, a reason for waking up tomorrow. You feel, for the first time, you feel safe. For the first time, you feel calm in a long time. You begin to understand that you are loved simply for just who you are. And this is why I love water baptisms. Because this symbol of this outward demonstration, what God has done in our hearts of water baptism, this is to share with the community around us, hey, this is what God is doing in me. And maybe you made a decision a long time ago, but you just never took the step to get baptized for a variety of reasons. But today you're making that decision. Maybe you're here today and you're even listening to this message, you're like, I know that's the decision I need to make, but I did my hair today and I got lunch after this. Like, I get it, but why not take the moment to celebrate the coolest thing that God has ever done in your life, which is beginning to transform your life? Jesus says, I want to extend an invitation to you. I want to extend an invitation. I want you to follow me. That's Jesus' words, follow me. And you don't have to get cleaned up first. You don't have to get it figured out first. You don't have to have all your questions answered first. I just want you to begin to follow me, the author and creator of life, who wants to bring you life. And today we intentionally, as we do water baptism, we've got towels, we've got shirts, we've got shorts. We try to make it as easy as possible. So if you came here dry, you can leave wet, but not in your clothes you came here with. Okay? We have changing rooms in the back that you can change into the shorts and shirts that are back there. We want to make it as easy as possible for you to take this step so we can celebrate what God has done and what God is doing in your life. Because just like you, and just like me, and just like all the Matthews of this world and of this Spokane Valley and greater area, we've been invited to follow. And it's not a religious invitation, it's a relational one. And for each one of us, we have the chance to say yes to that invitation. And for some of you, you've been doing this for a long time, but for some of you, this is like, I don't know why I put it off, but today's the day I need to say yes. And in just a second, I'm going to pray, and I'm going to invite you to pray along with me. And in your own words, you can say yes to this invitation. You can say yes to God, am I following? God, I want to follow. Help me follow. And you pray this prayer with me. And after we say amen, the band's going to lead us in a couple songs as we celebrate baptism together, and people are going to come up front. But if you're here today, hear me on this. If you're here today and you're like, I know I need to get baptized. I know I need the new in my life. I need to walk away from the old and enter into the new that God brings into me. If you're here today, that's your step. Here's, just for clarity's sake, as soon as we stand together, you can just walk simply to the back. There's a table back there. If you need shirts or shorts or whatever you need, they're going to get that for you. There's changing rooms, and then you're going to come up here around here. They'll explain all this too, but you're going to be able to come up here, and we'll baptize people while we sing and worship together, okay? We want to celebrate what God is doing, this transformation that he's making in our lives. Let's pray together. God, right now, for every single individual, every single soul, every single person, you see us right where we're at. You see the seat we're seated in, and you see the people that are watching online, God, and you've invited us to follow you. God, you've invited me to follow you. I think of my 14-year-old self when I first really said yes to this invitation. God, help us to say yes. God, that we would have the confidence or the boldness to take the risk and say yes to you. Say, God, I want to put my trust, my faith in you as the Lord and leader of my life. And I don't have to have it all figured out. And God, I for sure don't have it all cleaned up. But God, I choose right now to simply put my trust and faith and follow you. And for many of us, God, we just simply say, am I following? And we commit together right now and we answer that question with a, God, yes. I might not have been following last night or last week, but God, today I want to follow you. So I'm choosing to walk in your direction. Help me, Jesus. In your name we pray. Amen. Let's go ahead and stand together. And if you'd like to get baptized or you're already signed up to get baptized, you can go and walk to the room, walk in the back, and they'll get you all set up as we sing a few songs together. Let's do this.
Sing to the Lord, if the cross won your freedom. Sing to the Lord, if you know that He saves. Tell all the earth that His arms are wide open. Salvation is in His name. Let the lost be found. Let the blind eyes see. Let the music play. Let the people sing. Worship the Lord in the light of His presence. Worship the Lord with the angels and saints. Tell all the earth that the Savior is risen. The stone has been rolled away. Let the dead rise up. Let the bound run free. Let the church have faith. Let the people sing. Let the people sing. Great are you, Lord, worthy of praise. Jesus, your love has defeated the grave. Let the people sing. Yeah, let the people sing.
What a great day to be here and to witness that, to witness what it looks like when Jesus changes us from the inside out. I just love Baptism Sunday, and I'm so proud of those who have taken that next step. And for those of you who are here and you're like, I took a next step too, I actually decided today to make Jesus the Lord and leader of my life, either for the first time or the first time in a long time. We want to celebrate that. We want to celebrate you. And I want you to know that we have these boxes by the doors on your way out. These are new believer boxes, and they just have some tools to help you get started in this new journey of faith, and to let you know that we're here and we're part of this process with you. So if you made that decision today, pick up one of those. And also, if you see me in the lobby, come find me. I want to celebrate with you today as you take that next step. For those of you who came today and you're prepared to give, thank you so much for partnering with us to create a safe place for people to find and follow Jesus. Moments like this happen because of your generosity, creating space for people to find and follow Jesus. So thank you. And if you are a guest here today, go ahead and take a pass on that. We're just thrilled to have you here with us. But thank you so much for those of you who partner with us and are so generous. Hey, don't forget, next week is Starting Point. This is a great next step for you to take if you are new around here, wanting to join Eastpoint, join the Dream Team. And if you want to sign up for that today, actually on your message notes, there is a QR code on the back. You can scan that. That'll take you right to the registration link so you can sign up for that for next week. There's childcare and lunch provided, and I hope to see you all there. Well, thank you so much for being here today with us. We've got a special treat for those of you who are still thinking about the cookies that Tony made. We've got a tree out in the lobby for you in Bounce House. Hang out, take photos, celebrate the next steps that we're taking here today, and we will see you next week.
You're the breeze in the afternoon. You're the water welling up within me. You are making me new. You're the roots that go deep, deep down. You're the energy I need to grow. You're the mover